other feedback today that we can implement in the next speech. So please help me encourage Carl Campbell with his speech, Fear and Passion.
How would you feel if the thing that you loved doing the most became your biggest fear? This happened to me back in 2017. I'm flying in a helicopter for the very first time in my life. I'm looking out the window and we're flying above the Florida Keys. I see islands and palm trees and beautiful blue water. My mom's sitting next to me and she's holding my hand. But we're not in the helicopter for fun. I'm being airlifted to a hospital because I've just been in a serious scuba diving accident, and we have not a lot of time. Let me take a step back. I grew up in Key West, Florida. Scuba diving is very popular in Key West. In fact, my whole family dives, and I learned when I was 12 years old. It's basically in my blood. So I never imagined that the thing that I love doing the most, the thing that bonds me to my family, would one day almost take my life. Earlier that day, I was on the boat with my friends, and it was a beautiful day. The water was flat and crystal clear, and we were diving on a shipwreck that I'd been on many times before. And as we descended into the water, I could see beautiful fish and turtles and sharks, and I felt at home that this is where I was meant to be. But by the end of the dive, I could feel that something was wrong. And as I climbed back up onto the boat, my shoulder had a sharp pain in it. But I thought I had pulled a muscle or something, so I didn't pay any mind to it. And later that day, at dinner with my family, I was telling them about my dive. But I mentioned that my arm really hurt and I could barely lift it. And as I looked around, their faces went pale white. And they knew that I needed to go to a hospital right away. The next thing I knew, I saw a bright red flashing light above me and the sound of an engine around me. I look to my right and I see my mom holding my hand. I look out the window and I see that we're in a helicopter. The paramedic says that I've been in a diving accident and that I have decompression sickness, which every diver knows about. And it's an injury from diving where if you ascend too quickly, the air gets stuck in your bloodstream and can get trapped in your joints, or even worse, in your head, and potentially cause death. We needed to get to a hospital right away and get me into something called a hyperbaric chamber. It's a type of machine that can somehow get the bubble out of your body. But the doctors said that it wasn't for sure. But what choice did I have? They wheeled me into the room with the chamber, and I looked up and saw this giant glass chamber. They put me inside and closed the door behind me. And the air rushed around me, and my ears popped as the pressure built. And the doctor told me that they would put me under pressure, the same pressure that I would feel at up to 60 feet below the water. He said, we're approaching 40 feet. 50 feet, 60 feet. I was at the bottom. I'd be there for the rest of the night. As I sat there in complete silence, I asked myself how I had gotten there. How had I made such a big mistake? I knew how to dive. Would I ever do it again? I woke up the next morning and I felt my shoulder and the pain was gone. It had worked. But what remained was the fear of diving. And that accident was just over 5 years ago. And in those 5 years, I never returned to the ocean. I wondered, what if it was worse the next time? What would my parents think? What if I killed myself the next time I went diving? So I decided to get some space from it and to take time to reflect and figure out what had gone wrong. But after enough time had passed, my passion and love for the ocean and diving began to outweigh the fear of it. And just a couple of weeks ago, with my mom and brother by my side, I went scuba diving again. And it was incredible. It felt like I was coming home. The colors, the sensation, the experience of being in that underwater world, the place I'd grown up. I'd done it. I'd overcome this fear. Now, from this experience, I've learned that we all make mistakes sometimes. We may be trying to start a business, or to date, or maybe we get an injury from sports. And while it's important to reflect and heal and figure out what went wrong, it's important to eventually come back to it and face that fear head on. Now, Eleanor Roosevelt once said that we build strength, courage, and confidence with each experience in which we really stop and look fear in the face. You need to do the thing that you think you cannot. Ms. Toastmaster?